Hey, it's Austin. It's grade 24. Sorry about that. I'm just going to tell you about all this stuff, part two of my whole thing about daycare and preschool. If you go to Catholic school, you go to preschool, and you can go to daycare around probably um, grade 1, grade daycare to grade 12 ish. And then I went to two schools, two Catholic schools, but I switched in grade 12 too because you can't have the same teacher as your mom. And so my brother switched when he was going to 5. I was going to 12. He started when he was 4. I started in 5 because I went to last year of daycare, and I wasn't ready. So and grade 5 and is when you can start. They have the portables for grade 5 and grade 6 to go to French immersion, and then you go from French immersion to 8 and decide what you want to do for that. You can go back after that, but it all depends on what school you're at, and French immersion. There is French immersion school going all the way from grade 1 to grade 12. Some even have like JK and SK, but not really. JK and SK are not a thing in French immersion. Tell you that much. But yeah, and we have a literacy test, and we also have a math test and tech test, which is basically a math test. It's usually in grade 9 and 10, while the literacy test is in 10 and 11. And if you don't pass the literacy test, then you have to do the course. And yes, yeah, and you need 2 science in high school. And then we have a thing called Rep Gym, which is where you go out and you don't party and you don't drink maple syrup. You just go to different sporting events like speed skating, kickboxing, rock climbing, stuff like that. And it's co-op, so it's girls and boys. And then there's like a dedicated soccer and dedicated weight training, depending on the school you are. Tech school, and then there's Mia Arts, and then there's music, which we don't do piano keyboards because that's only for the choir. And then, but there's Glockenspiel, there's the Orchestra Bell. The Orchestra Bell is like a Glockenspiel, but it's an Orchestra Bell, and because it has a pedal. And then there's drums, but the Orchestra Bell is only for when people start out a different instrument and they can't do it, and then they go to the Orchestra Bell. Or the drums, but depending on how many people are doing the drums, then the orchestra bell is the second. I started with saxophone, I couldn't do it, so then I switched to orchestra bell, and I felt much more better doing it. Similar to Glockenspiel, look it up, but it has a pedal. And yes, and everything about that is, yeah, you can do all it. And then you also have like world geography and world history. World history is in, and then civics and Korea, which is in grade 10. Um, and then there's co-op, which is in grade 11 and 12. And then you have the whole thing about the Ag Learning Center. But you have to be out of high school when you're 21. And then you go to the Ag Learning Center, which you have another test for math and English to get in, or you go to the co-op learning, which takes 2 years. And then there's other universities and colleges out there, depending on what your job is, like gaming designing and stuff like that. And that's about it. With public schools, it's pretty much the same, but some do have middle schools in them, depending on what city you are from. And this is mostly Ontario, but depending on what school you are, and most are friendly. Most are, like the one I went to, we had for a while, we were the number 1 water fountain, or the number 2 water fountain in elementary and high school. It was a good honor to be the number 1, even though some people put gum in the water fountain, but that's just sick. And some places, and you don't have to really have lunch. You can actually eat lunch in school, but if you don't have like a dedicated lunch schedule and you have a co-op right after, if you don't actually have it dedicated, because you don't actually have to have a lunch in high school if you're in grade 11, 12, mandatory in 9, 10. But So yeah, you choose what you want to do, and if you don't want to take a lunch, and at 12 you have a spare, so you can actually have lunch on 2, or yeah, so it doesn't really matter, 1 and 5, but you, some, like, schools, that sometimes you have to stay until the end of the bells, but if you're in, uh, the end of 5, spare 5, you don't have to, but if you're in 1, you do. The worst part about school was probably gym if you have the first, because you forget your school shoes. You run your shoes to gym class. And yeah, well, we don't actually have the school shoes. It's just something that UK does, but we actually have to buy our own shoes. And elementary school don't have uniforms to start, but they're thinking about it in Catholic schools. And it's not as strict in Catholic schools as the USA. And yeah, most people who get trouble in Catholic schools are probably people who bring weapons to school for show and tell. But yeah, but not guns, not guns. Like people who don't like water guns, or like those toy guns, basically, or like Swiss knives, or Gap guns are not banned in Canada, but the things now that are banned in Canada are those things called those caps, which is banned in Canada now. And yes, we do have Wi-Fi. So, and we just got recently Pandora. It was in construction during like 2018, 19, 20. It took a long time for Pandora to come in here. Most stuff in USA don't succeed in Canada. So we just talk about, so we just ship it to New Zealand so they can have a test at it. I call Canada we cook towards, we think a lot like Australia, but we don't say as much. And yes, and everything else is spelled pretty well. And New Zealand, we call it the USA. The fake New Zealand, while Australia's the fake Canada. We do that, but sometimes we reverse it. Depending on where you are. And yes, it's 18 if you're in Manitoba, Alberta, or Quebec to drink and gamble. And it's, well, in Canada, it's 18 to gamble, 19 to drink. But if you're on a cruise ship, it's 18 to gamble and 21 to drink, which is really, unless the cruise ship is dedicated to Canada, then it's 18 or 19, depending on this country or the province. And the territory, don't let me start with the territory. There's a lot more stuff about the territory, and yeah, that's where the monarchies are. Mostly it's in the territories and Saskatchewan. Not much in Manitoba anymore, I don't think. And yes, the territories don't really have a set time zone. We just call it the Northern time zone. And Awesomeness Grade 24 is out. Bye bye.